Welcome to Target Success. Our weekly cable television program brings us leaders from the fields of education, business, economic development, and government. Today we have with us as a guest Jason Sokody. Jason is an instructor at Erie County Community College, and he's an author and creator of pulpfictionedu.com. Welcome, Jason.
Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Jason and I see each other 3-4 days a week if I go into ECC and do the job that I'm employed by, where Jason is a teacher, and I have an opportunity to listen to his teaching techniques, and am very much impressed by that. Jason, you have a variety of jobs. How do you use these jobs to influence the students that you teach?
Well, you know what? I take all my occupations and I use them to teach them basic life skills as well. Just to back up a second, I always call myself a teacher first and foremost. I also sell real estate, so I can show them how to use real estate and, in math problems with real estate. I'm also a personal trainer, so at times I'll give them, quick crash diet plans, things like that. And I also teach at Erie One BOCES as well. But the heart of where my heart lies is in education, as in at ECC. And how I relate my multiple jobs to my students is kind of just to show them that you can be more than one thing. I keep myself busy with a variety of jobs as well because I appreciate the venture for learning. So I always want to learn and try to do all new things. So the best way to be a good teacher is to lead by example, I believe. And it's how I use my jobs, and to show them, hey, like this is the percent that you're going to make off a house sale. And then always talking about money always gets them excited. So we show them, if you sold a house for this much, this is how much you would make. If you can go over body mass index with them, like all different types of things. So I'm not just trying to teach, out of a book. I'm trying to teach them life skills, which I think is so much more important.
I think the important part about life skills, because I've listened to you as the walls are very thin, I'm able to hear. The life skills are very, very important because in trying to get someone their high school diploma, they go through social studies, they go through reading, they go through math. They're upgrading their skills. And many times in social studies, some of the examples of foreign countries are in that GED book where they talk about a dictator or taking away the rights of someone, whatever.
Yes.
And you always equate that to them locally.
Absolutely.
Whether it's the president or a senator, or how does that affect them? When I say that to you, because I know some of them grasp it right away. They identify with that when you make it a local problem.
Absolutely. And a lot of my students, they're very vocal, which is cool, and I appreciate that. And just to talk about how we act locally versus how we act globally. China, for example, a communist country, when we talk about the way that some of the things that we talk about or some of our opinions that may be adverse to societal norms, and I say, well, think about if you were in China, you wouldn't even be able to speak these things. You wouldn't have the opportunity. Your dollar per dollar is going to be worth so much less as a human being. So I try to show them, like, look, we really do have it very good here. You're getting an education in New York. You're getting it for free because of funding. We have programs to help people get back on their feet. When other states, other countries, they just don't have this. And New York is a wonderful state to live in terms of giving people opportunity and getting them back on their feet. And
Well, you certainly give them the great connection to why they're sitting there to get that high school diploma, and two, that they're living in a wonderful situation and country. What is your philosophy for teaching?
My philosophy for teaching actually extends beyond the classroom walls. Here, a really good example. Students ask, well, why do I have to learn geometry? I'm never going to use this. I said, all right, well, let's go outside. Let's talk about a couple things. So I'll literally grab my whole classroom. We'll walk outside, and we'll talk about perimeter. We'll talk about area. We'll talk about volume. We'll have them All right, say if you're running, say if you're the, the head building supervisor and you need to figure out how much trash can fit in this receptacle. Well, that's volume equals length times width times height. And then you need to order the trucks to come and pick the bins up, and you're charged per how much volume of garbage you have. Well, there's geometry right there. What if you're going to build a deck for a community project? Well, there's area right there, there's perimeter right there. Doing gardening, any of those kind of things, painting walls, just that relationship between why do I have to learn this and where does it apply to me in the world. That's so important. Nobody cares if you're just going to sit up there and just give them numbers and not show them why they have to learn it. Albert Einstein said the most important thing that I've ever heard, and he said, his statement said, the important thing is to never stop questioning. And I think that's a huge thing, and that's what I want them to do all the time. I want them to question. Now, even when I do like something wrong on the board, because I'm human like anybody else, I do something wrong on the board, man, they're the first one to call me out. No, it doesn't go like that. It goes like this. And I love the fact that they have the strength inside of them to question, what would be a quote an authority figure in their classroom. I think that's fantastic, and I want them to have that confidence.
When you mention that, I come back from a long period of teaching, and one of those things that has always meant a lot to me is that students cannot understand something that they don't feel and touch.
Yes.
And it is so hard to try and explain that sometimes to quote other people. When I say that, I give enough, as you know, enough presentations that I've been doing for now University College of Education, and it's very meaningful that someone learns on one side of the classroom in a laboratory or in a class setting and then goes to a laboratory and does it, because then they understand it. So if you're trying to teach something like math and you don't have them go outside and use it somehow, like you're doing with area, or you're measuring the room or whatever you're doing, and you give them book learning, when I say that rote learning, they don't get the concept as good and fast enough. Rote learning is okay, but it serves a purpose with hands-on learning.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jerry. Honestly, I think rote learning is best effective, like for learning the times tables. There's certain things you have to know the times tables. I mean, 9 out of 10 of my students that come to me have a lower math score than a lower reading score. So I tailor actually my instruction. I only have them 3 hours a day. I wish I had them more, but that's what I have. So I make every minute that I can useful for them. I'm one of the only teachers, in fact, I think I'm the only teacher in my whole district who teaches math from 9 to 10:30, which is an hour and a half. Every 3 hours, an hour and a half is blocked strictly for math. And they appreciate that. They appreciate that because I'm trying to give them what they need. Unfortunately, you get paid the same whether you sit at the desk and you hand them handouts or whether you're on the board and you're engaging them. I'm not willing to take a back seat and be a handout man. I want to be in front of them. I want them to ask questions. I want them to ask why. It's important to me.
What's your role as an educator? Is it just to teach academics?
Absolutely not. My role as an educator transcends the walls. As we had talked about earlier, applying. When are they going to use this in their profession? Why do I have to learn fractions? Okay, do you want to be a hairstylist? Absolutely. Okay. Well, what if a model comes in and she says, you know what, my hair is 9 3/4 inch long right now. They need me to take 1 1/8 inch off, and it needs to be exact for this photo shoot. Well, there's fractions right there for you. Okay, what if you're working on a construction site and you need to cut some boards and you need to convert fractions, like you use them all the time. So my role as an educator definitely goes beyond the classroom, because there's times when I even have to teach them the most basic, simplest thing, which is like, please turn your cell phone off in a classroom. You don't answer your cell phone in a classroom. It's not just you in here, it's all of us. And that's what I'm trying to build, is a sense of community and comfort of learning. And honestly, putting my fist forward and say, like, learning is cool. Learning is cool. And that is the best thing out there. Just gather knowledge. Get as much of it as you can. As much of it as you can.
How do you, and I know how you deal with this, but how do you deal with a problem? In other words, I know your classes sometimes are going to have someone who does not want to be there. He's doing it for other reasons why he's in your class, and it's not so much your class, but I mean, he's taking that program. How do you deal with that problem? Because you could see it in his attitude, or you could see it in his answers to you, or you can see him and not doing his homework or preparing.
Yes.
How do you deal with that? Do you deal it in the classroom, or do you take him outside? When I say that, to talk to him?
You never scold anybody. It's the same way that I would raise my children. Never scold anybody in public. It's embarrassing to you. It's embarrassing to the individual. If they're having a problem, most likely the problem I see is not the problem that is apparent, if you get what I mean. If they have a negative attitude, there's probably a different reason. So a lot of times I'll scratch the surface and I'll see what's going on. But I am so fortunate to be part of the Pathways, the ECC Pathways family, and the fact that we have counselors there. So do I know, like, if somebody's been hurt, or if they're hungry, or if they can't get, you know, if they don't want to tell me, that's okay. I just want them to know that the door is open for them, and that, you know what, we have Jenny, who's an amazing counselor. We have her there to help. We have Christina over there who segues people into college. We have Justin running an entire Pathways program that transcends not just the site where I'm at, but a variety of sites. Even at Erie One BOCES, our Pathways poster is on the wall. So I think if you relate to the students and just show them that you care, it doesn't matter what I have up here if you're not going to listen to me. You know, so the first thing is first, which is building rapport, showing them you care. A lot of my students have come in, you know, with a lot of kinks in their armor, and bruised eyes and swollen knuckles, because they've been fighting for just a crumb. And I understand that, because at one point I was there too.
What are your feelings on the federal standards, new Common Core that's being invoked by 2014 and is already coming down in the schools with testing, et cetera?
I believe it's a double-edged sword. I understand why they're doing it. We live in a global economy. If we were localized, like we were talking earlier, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. But we are living in a global society where people across the world are going to school. Children are going across the school for, across the world are going to school for, 300 days a year. Well, Americans are getting about 186 or 187 days a year, right around that. Well, if you look at that just as a ratio, they're going to school almost twice as much as us. So if we want to continue to be an educational powerhouse in the world, which we're already slipping right now, that's why they've instituted these standards. So on the positive side, it's fantastic that it holds people accountable. On the negative side is the reality of it. I've taken some of those questions and I've completed them, and I'm thinking, man, my students, even the hardest working ones, are probably not going to be prepared for this right now. And I'm talking about adult education in general, but even for elementary, middle school, and high school education, I think that if we become a society where we're only going to base our success on just certain benchmarks, then we're really going to miss out on, life skills and just loving life in general. And that's why I'm trying to relate to why do I have to learn this? Let me show you how. I'll tell you why.
Which is certainly the right answer and the right object to bring about. You've consistently been a top performing teacher. You've won a number of awards in the past 4 years. What are your thoughts on how people learn?
Well, you know what? Everybody learns differently, to be quite honest with you. What I've learned was that some people, I use music in my class a lot, which I know is a lot different from a lot of teachers. In my break, we take a small 10-minute break in between, because you can't teach for 3 hours. I mean, I can't even sit for 3 hours, so I don't expect them to either. So we take a small break, and I'll put some music on, and it might be some hip hop, it might be some heavy metal, it might be some country. It's going to be everywhere. But they listen to it, and they're like, I didn't know you listened to that. That's pretty cool. And then, once again, we start building a little bit of rapport. And the reason that I think I've been a top performer with the #1 graduation rate, and I think it was 2011, I had the highest graduation percentage. In 2012, I graduated. I was second place because I have a really good teacher that I'm always up against each year, and she beats me sometimes, but it's good, healthy competition. And I'm consistently up there once again because I have the knowledge in my head, but I build rapport first, and I think that's super important.
What are your thoughts on how best to build that rapport? I mean, you're talking about it, but how do you build that with the students?
Yeah, a lot of it goes back to some of the things that I was talking about earlier, which is showing that you genuinely care. You know, when somebody comes up to you, not being on your phone, not looking at your phone, maintaining eye contact, the basic type of stuff, maintaining eye contact, not giving, aggressive stances, not keeping your hands closed. You have two ears and one mouth for a reason. If somebody's coming up, you talk to them, don't interrupt them right in the middle of what they're saying. Understand where they're coming from. I was a free milk and cheese and heap assistance guy at one point in time. I had no place to live. I got my own apartment. I understand where they come from. Building rapport with students is understanding who they are and understanding the struggles that they've been through. It may be easier for me to relate because I've been through some of them. I mean, unfortunately, even been shot at a couple of times and stabbed in my own house, in front of my kids. I know what they've been through, and I think they can relate that, and I think they can relate to that.
And I know the answer to this, but you wanted as one of your questions, is college for every student?
It is, you know what, and it's a loaded question, but I wanted that specifically. Is college for every student? I can tell you with complete certainty that the answer is no. Is learning for every student? Yes. Is knowledge for every student? Yes. Some people are great in a college setting, an academic setting. Other people are fantastic in a vocational setting. So when I talk to my students about everything, it's always about, okay, what's next? If it's not college, that's okay. What are we gonna do next? Oh, you like mechanics, you like nursing, you like cosmetology? Well, those are good careers and they're necessary careers. And if that's what drives your passion, you know what they say, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life.
You know, when you're teaching math, you can use this at your next time you're talking about math. Do you realize that if you could learn math up through algebra and could at least be able to read blueprints, you could take the exam to be an electrician and start your 5-year process to get your card and start out making $18,000 to $20,000 the first year and graduate in 5 years to get your journeyman's card and be earning $60,000 plus benefits and take that card and go to work any place in the United States.
That
The
sounds good.
problem we have is that they don't know the algebra, and we're talking about basic algebra, and someone really hasn't gotten that message to them that you could take that skill from learning your math, and I'm not talking about 2 years of community college because they get you to go to school while you're being an apprentice in the electric. But the point is they help you 2 nights a week to learn it even better.
And that's what I tell them all the time. I said, look, that's okay that you're doing Subway or McDonald's or any of that stuff right now. You're working. And that's a lot more than the people on the streets and the corners are doing. You are leading by example. See, one of the hardest things, and I tell them this all the time because I've already been through it, you can stay here on assistance at age 20. You can start right here at age 20 as well. You can stay on assistance for your entire life, and you can be 50 years old right here. Or you can work really hard, step by step, and eventually you'll be where you want to be. A lot of times it's very difficult for people to understand. They say, well, why would I get off assistance if I'm okay living right here? Because that's where you're going to be for the next 20, 30, 40 years. Without education or without knowledge of a vocation, there is no growth, there's no opportunity.
You're writing a very different type of math book. Could you share ideas of what makes it different?
Yes, absolutely. I'm authoring Pulp Fiction EDU, Volume 1. And basically, this thing is so cool. There's no math book like it out there. I have interest already in Washington and Brooklyn and Buffalo to use it. Basically, it's just like the movie Pulp Fiction. It's not as, Pulp Fiction by itself is a pretty graphic movie, so it's tailored for educational purposes. But basically, the whole purpose of it is to show how you would use math in real life situations. So through stories that are entertaining. So I have a hip hop performer who wants to open up his own business. Well, I show him how to use algebra to put on concerts, to open up your own business. I have barbers in there opening up shops. I have people going through modeling opportunities. I have auto mechanic people in there. And basically, this is really cool. So say you got person A and person B, and they would never relate except for math. So their paths cross at any given time, and they have to solve a math problem in order to proceed with the story. So it's an intermingling of every letter from A to Z, who would all stand alone from A to Z. But because they're part of this book and because they're part of solving math to become something more, all their stories get intertwined. So it's a really different way of teaching math. And not only does it teach math, it focuses on vocabulary words. If you have an understanding of vocabulary, not only do we have, the larger your vocabulary, the more you can understand everything in general. Not just science, not just social, reading, everything in general. So there's a lot of difficult federal standards and college level vocabulary in there, as well as math that correlates with the new federal standards. So that's why I was going to release it this year, but I'm pushing it off 6 months because I want to hit the ground running. As soon as they release those new standards, I'm going to be there with the product to help out everybody who needs it.
We talked about pre-kindergarten and kindergarten in first, second, third grade, that a person needs to know 10,000 words to be able to function in the beginning. Yeah. And that's the old Dolch method of word recognition. Yes. That was taught many, many, many years ago.
Once again, though, I think that's very applicable. That type of method, as well as the multiplication table, that's more of the rote type learning, but it's applicable at times and it needs to be done.
All right, in addition to your math book, you've also developed a website. Can you tell us about your site so that maybe some of our people here can tune into that?
Absolutely, absolutely. Honestly, I hope it to be a national product within a year. The website is awesome. The website is math-based, math and vocabulary-based, so it's basically an extension of the book. But what's so great about it is it does have that rote learning in it too, where you just got to do your, just do some simple computational problems. It also has the applied problems, which are math in word problems. But everybody can do that. Where my site's different, and what makes my site amazing is because it also encapsulates the things that I think make me such a good teacher and make me a unique teacher. Well, you know as well as anybody, I'm probably your first interviewee that's fully tattooed from legs to arms, and I got this on here right now because like I said, it's just like with students, you want to match, reflect where you're at. But I have a tattoo gallery on there. I have a poetry gallery on there. Poetry is really poetry is huge with my students. Huge with my students. Why? Because poetry is where it's hidden in the hip hop music anyway. So it has a tattoo gallery. It has a poetry gallery where you can go on there and you can upload your poems and share them with other people. I also make music. So I've made probably 140 songs. All my songs will be on the website, available for you to use royalty-free as an instrumental to help you develop your own musical skills as well, or just to relax and listen to. And you know how you unlock them? Because you have to complete certain fraction sections, sign number sections, percent sections. If you complete these math problems, then you get the reward of the instrumentals. And I think that's really pretty unique and cool. Like I said, I try to relate my life and my stories and everything that I've done with my students because I think we've been through that together. And I think, and just to back up a second, I think you can still be a great teacher if you haven't been through those things, as long as you understand those things. I think a lot of us sometimes, teachers being removed, they forget what it was to be a student and how hard it was to make that transition from, high school to adult life.
One of the problems, I'm going to talk about teachers, in comparison to what you're talking about, is that teachers have been involved in K through 20 their whole life. Mm-hmm. They don't have the personal experiences you're talking about. Mm-hmm. So it's very difficult to relate to the students who are going through those problems and be able to generate the learning to take place that they perceive as important. I'm talking about the teacher now.
Yeah, I know.
To the student, because the student is not there And one of your questions that I didn't ask you was, what characteristics do you see in them? You see different characteristics in your students than, let's say, Joe College, excuse my expression for a teacher,
No, I completely understand.
who has not really been involved with that type of situation, whether it's a home situation, whether it's a personal situation, whether it's a health situation, whatever. And you have to have the ability to be able to deal with that whole area.
I do agree with you, but I still think that wonderful teachers can be made if they're just going to do one thing, and that word is listen. If you do not have the life experience, you can still gain experience by listening to them and what they go through. If you're not at the board pontificating general information all the time, once again, I think our common theme of everything that we're talking about today is building rapport. But you cannot build rapport if you're just up there spewing facts all the time. And I think a lot of people, and you know what it comes down to too? Some of these standards. I have to test a student. I have to get them this much information. You know what? If you're going to keep doing that, you're going to miss out on maybe some of those wonderful little nuances that a student could tell you. You know, you're going to miss out on their life. Don't you want to build a person? Do you want to just build a math robot? Do you want to just build an English robot? No, I want to build a person. I want to build a person who's well-rounded, who can go home and talk to their kids and relate to them and not just worry about, okay, I got to get X, Y, Z done and that's it.
And Jason, I agree with you. I was just trying to structure that
Yeah.
that there are some people who don't see the other side of the classroom. Not all teachers. Most teachers are very sincere and want to see the whole child and deal with that. But I'm just saying that the importance, and I think you've talked about it, is developing the individual.
Yes.
And once you've got that rapport, they're going to be a learner.
Yeah. They will. And more importantly, not just being a learner, they'll understand why it's important to be a learner and what they can gather from it.
All right, Jason, I tell you, time goes fast. 28 minutes flies by.
That's it.
And I think we were able to get everything in. I do want to go over that you do have that website, pulpfictionedu.com.
Yeah, pulpfictionedu.com. It's up and running in a partial mode right now. This interview happened a little earlier than I would have had all my product ready. But yeah, absolutely, people can visit it. They can check it out. They can see what the template's going to be like. It's going to be officially on at the very end of the year. Like I said, I just held out because I want to wait for them standards to come out and make sure that it correlates well.
I want to thank you, Jason Sokody, for being with us today, an instructor at Erie County Community College and author and creator. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you so much.
I want to thank our listening audience for tuning in again to hear certainly speakers such as Jason, and we really had a great session in discussing education today. We thank you for tuning in and look forward to seeing you again soon on Target Success.